Hello, class. This chapter 3, is about the visual elements of art. What is the elements of art? It's the tools that we are using to create an artwork. For example, using of the line, using of the shapes, colors, create texture, and so on, that they are the tools that we are using. If we want to compare, when you want to write down a sentence, you're using of the words. Then these words are elements of art that we are using in art. We have a list that we're gonna talk about this just one by one. If you're looking of this picture, we can see all the elements of art on this. We can see depth. We can see that some elements are closer to us to the other one. Then it's a space that we see. We see light, we see dark, we see lines that you can see on the wall, line that you see between the two surfaces, like the figure that we have and the wall behind it, the shadow and the wall, the curtain. We have colors everywhere. We can see the difference between texture in the different part of the painting, like in the column and in the floor and in the wall or hair of the girl. And also, when we are looking of this, we see a variety of the lines, variety of the colors, textures, and again we are talking about the all of them one by one. But it's a good example of an artwork, that how an artist using of all of these elements, shapes, the shapes that are geometric, the shapes that are um, organic, figurative, the implied form, because it's flat, but we can see the form in the illusion of the shape. So we're going to start with the first element of art, that it's line. What is the line? You have a point, you move it, you have a line. Line has a different shape. It can be a regular line, it can be curved line, zigzag line, and it can be between two surfaces, not really showing the line between two shapes that we see line. A very good example is that you see in the A, we have actual lines. These lines, we don't see any space between the points. What is implied line? When we have a series of marks, a series of dots, a series of, I don't know, even people that they are in the line. And this is, we have a space between these marks, but your eye is gonna connect it together, then we have implied line. In the C, you can see we have actual straight lines, but in the top part, these lines making some kind of implied line. A line can be between two colors, between two shapes. Line can have a personality, showing a personality, showing a mood. When you see a lot of the vertical lines, it's bring strength, it's bring stability. When you're looking of the lines, that mostly they are very horizontal, it's about peace, sleep, peace, some things like that. When you're looking of the lines that they are diagonal, it's gonna bring energy, emotion, motion. In the number, in the G, you see shapes, a sharp change in the direction of light, that it's gonna make it like you're looking of the movement that suddenly change the direction. But when you're looking of the curves, just the curves, you're looking of the in the edge, like a dance, like a very smooth movement. And also we are looking of the two other kind of line here in the I and J, that you can see that some of the lines can have a very smoother, softer edges. Some of them, it has a very harsh and very tough edges, but all of them still they are lines. Remember that when we are talking about the lines and shapes, because it's gonna get a little confusing, lines they are open in the theory. They're not gonna make, getting close and making a shape. We're gonna look at this again. But the first example of the line and movement that we see in this painting, you can see the curves, the lines. We have the shape here, but there is the curve lines that they're making these shapes, and it's showing some kind of the moving slowly, rhythmic move. But this one is a very harsh zigzag kind of the movement that is showing that it's very fast movement. Then with using of this line, we can show the emotion of and the implied kind of the motion that we can create on the artwork. Some of the look at the next artwork. It's a lot of line, it's look like that you're in the net and everywhere you see the lines, a little maybe chaos and confusing, but we can still making it very organized, very these ones are just vertical, that showing the stability, and horizontal, that's showing peace. Then you can see the other ones showing a little chaos, feeling of chaos, and what is the feeling here is very, very different. Also, we can use of the lines to make texture. If you're looking of this work of the Kiki Smith, all the fur of the cat is with small lines, and this is that how we are using of the lines to create texture. Some example of the implied line. Look at this picture, and we have a few people. When you're with your eyes, you're just connecting these 4 or 5 people together, and even the dog, we have a straight line in the bottom part, and in the top part with just connecting with your eyes, the head of the people and the back of people together. Then it's gonna bring some kind of the diagonal lines for us. This is implied line. The same for the top part that you see, that we can connect the shape of the head of people, and we see implied line. And for the shape, your book started with implied shape. So you see that the shape is, if you close your lines, you have a shape. Look at the top part, and the black part is a shape that we have in the bottom too. But can you see the white square that we have here? We don't have it really, but we can see it, because this is our eyes that make this a square for us. Then it's an implied shape that we have. Remember, shape is 2D, shape is flat. This is very important that you know the difference between shape and form. Then shape is flat. If you're looking of the part that we have in the left side, you see that the top part, if you're looking or the bottom part of the shape, if you're looking of everything, then it's a form because it's 3D. But if you're looking of just the surface of this, then this is the shape. In the right side, you see that we have different shape. The whole shape of the black is a geometric shape. But if you're looking of the center shape, that it's surrounded by black, but it's some kind of the organic shape that we have in the center. And in the left side, we have organic shape. but the part that we have writing in the bottom part on this, it's more geometric shapes. Then we have a square and rectangular and circle and other shapes that they are geometric. Form is 3D. Again, it's very important that you know the difference between shape and form. We call the form mass when we want to talk about, we imagine the weight of this form and mass. A lot of times we are using of them instead of this, but you see it's 3D and it's occupy space, then it's form or mass. But we can make a implied form. Then if you're using of the light and dark on the flat forms like a painting or drawing, just using of light and dark to show just implied shape that it's look like they are 3D. But if you touch the surface, it's 2D, then it's implied form that we have. And after that, we're going to talk about the depth, space. What is the space? When you're looking of the one things that it's in the top of the other things and occupy the space, all of them together, we have a space. Remember that a space can be real space, like the space that we have here. The space is vertical space and horizontal space, but it's a very large part of the airport that you can see. We have inside the space and we can see outside the space from the windows too. Then the space really exists. But sometimes artists using of the light like that, you look at this and you think you have a space, but actually it's some kind of your eyes that can see the space from the back. But if you coming and touch it, it's just a light. You don't have the space. It's some kind of implied space. Then they are real space that we are talking about. What if we want to show the illusion of a space, 3D space on 2D, like this painting that we have? If you're looking of this is very flat. We don't see the space. We can see it's look like you're looking from the top of the pool and you see everything, they are next to each other, but there is no depth. If we want to show the depth, we can use of the one of this technique, overlapping. It means that you overlap whatever that it's closer to you, gonna overlap that some things that is farther from you. Or you can use of the size. When we are looking of the size of trees, the same trees in the street, whatever that is closer to us, it's larger. Then not only we can use overlapping, we can use of the size of them to show the space. Whatever getting farther from us, then it's getting smaller. The other one is vertical placement. In our painting, whatever that or drawing, whatever you're putting in the lower, this is closer to you. And also we can use of the combination of this technique to show the space. One example that we have here is Paul Cézanne artwork. You see that the pot in the left side, it's lower than everything, then it's closest object that we have. We see that the lemon overlap the two green fruit that I don't know what are they. Then the lemon and two fruits, they're making some kind of depth and space us. You see that the lemon is lower than the plate, the dishes for the fruit, then this is closer to us. Then all of them together, we see the overlapping of the apples and plate and the green foods. Then all of them help us to create illusion of space. We have linear perspective, and this linear perspective is when you're using of the line to create the illusion of space. The most important one that we're gonna study in this book is 1 point perspective and 2 point perspective. What is the linear perspective? When you are in the some place and you have some geometric shape that you can use of them, you can find the linear perspective. You need to find out where is the horizon. The horizontal line is always the same level of your eyes. And when you're in the some long way like streets, railroads, or hallway, then we are talking about the 1 point perspective. All the vertical lines gonna stay vertical, horizontal lines gonna stay horizontal, but diagonal lines, all of them, they're getting closer to each other until in the vanishing point that it's exactly across your eyes on the horizon, they're gonna meet each other. For the 2 point perspective, otherwise you have to have a cube shape, and when you're looking of the corner of cube, both of the sides has to have a diagonal lines. Then if it's face to us and we see a perfect square shape or rectangular shape, it's a 1 point perspective. If we are looking of the corner but and two sides are diagonal, then we have a 2 point perspective. The same, we have to have horizontal lines, but the lines that they are parallel with each other. In the right side, they're gonna go to the right and meet each other in one vanishing point in the right side, and the other lines that they are all again parallel with each other, they're gonna go to left and they're gonna meet each other in the vanishing points in the left side. Then we have two vanishing points. One of the best example that we have is the work of Raphael, School of Athens. And in this, you can see that it's like a hallway, it's a long way. And if you're looking of the lines in the floor, you can see that they're getting closer to each other. Then this is 1 point perspective. But in Raphael put a cube shape in the middle of the painting, the one that the guys is leaning on this, and this cube showing us 2 point perspective. Then everything's in this painting, it has a 1 point perspective, but the cube has 2 point perspective too. Then we have both of the 1 point perspective and 2 point perspective in this painting. If we are looking of these lines, you can see that all of the 1 point perspective, all of the diagonal lines, they're getting closer to each other until they meet each other in the middle, that's and showing a 1 point perspective. But don't forget, it has both 1 point perspective and 2 point perspective. What if we don't have this line to use of this? What if we are in the atmospheric perspective? So in atmospheric perspective, whatever that it's getting farther from us, we're gonna make it smaller. Whatever that it's getting farther from us, it's gonna get less vibrant colors, more dull colors, more grayish colors. Whatever that it's getting far from us, it has less details and less contrast. then this is how we are showing perspective in the landscape or somewhere else. This is some example, Japanese example that we have here. It's a little different from the naturalistic perspective, but still. So, how artists showing time? This is a Aztec stone calendar that we see the god of sun in the center, and it's very great art. You have to look at the link that I put in your presentation, then I'm not gonna talk about this a lot. But in this painting, how artists showing the time? If you're looking of this, we have Saint Anthony in three places in the road. When he started his journey in the left top part to find St. Paul in the middle, that he's meeting a centaur. Centaur is the symbol of temptation. Then he's getting some kind of temptation. It's showing, but he continue his way until in the end of the road he found Saint Paul. Then this is how the art is showing the times, and of course the color of the sky, it's showing that it's sunset or sundown. Another way, comic books, they're making cells, and each cells it's showing a time. Then it's in the sequence of the times that we see in the comic books. Sorry. Okay. Uh, and what about motion? Motion is when you move. Motion is like a theater. Then you're looking of the theater and you see the people moving. But we can still showing the implied motion, like the dancing Krishna that we have here. It's not moving, but showing the implied motion. Some artists they believe that just I'm so sorry. Just with the lines and the movement they can show the motion. Then all of them is implied motion, not real motion. But we have kind of the art that they are really move with the help of the engine, with the help of wind, water, and electricity and other things. Kinetic art are the art that they really move, like this one that we have. Then we call them kinetic art. Another elements that we have is light. We have a very nice example here. It's the Abraham Lincoln sculpture. When French was creating the sculpture, he was in his studio, and in his studio he had a very strong spotlight. When it finished and they came to the place to just install it, the French and the other they saw the left Abraham Lincoln. The Abraham Lincoln that is like a surprise and a little like a not very thoughtful person. Then you see that they because they had the reflection of light from the marbles from bottom part. Then they installed very a strong spotlight again from the top part to Abraham Lincoln, and with the light and shadow we see the right one. The same sculpture, just in the right one we see more somebody that is thinking, he's very serious and more presidential than the art or the same art that we see without the spotlight in the left part. Then the light is not only can create the illusion of the light, illusion of 3D existence, space that we see in the other artwork, it can change the personality. And very important elements, especially when we are working with 3D objects. And this with the when we want to create the dark and light with the pigments, we are using of the values. You remember that the values are the light, and from the light to dark on one colors. Then it can be from white to the black. Then this is gonna be values that we are creating with the pigments. And these values we're using of light to the dark to create the illusion of form, the illusion of 3D. We call this technique chiaroscuro. Chiaroscuro started with the Renaissance. We had it before that in the uh, classic time, but after that it was everything's getting very flat. We're talking about this in the art history part, but after that they start using of chiaroscuro to make a illusion of the form, illusion of 3D, for making from light to dark, using of the different values, and it's gonna help us to make a illusion of form or 3D on the flat surface. So the light can be some things that you're making the art with this, like this one that's showing just for a moment important items in our life, just one by one, and it's gonna go on for a time. So what is the color? We have the waves, different waves, that these waves has gonna create different colors. Colors we have in the lights. Then when when the white light pass through a prism, we see these 6 colors. And the colors that we have here, red, yellow, and blue, they are primary colors. Orange and green and violet are secondary colors. We are adding the 2 primary colors to each other, and we have the secondary colors. The primary colors are you cannot create them. Okay, then when we are talking about these ones, we cannot make the yellow with any other colors. We have to have it. In the top part we have color wheel. Color wheel is a very important picture that we have here. Remember, all of the number ones, they are primary colors. Number 2, they are secondary colors. And when we are talking about the color scheme, we are talking about different colors. For example, the colors that they have a very close to each other, we call them the colors that very close to analogous colors. That then it can be the colors that they are next to each other on your color wheel. Colors that they are against each other, across each other, like violet and yellow, they are they have the most contrast. Then we call it complementary colors. Then complementary color can be green and red, orange and blue. Then they are exactly opposite of each other, across each other in the color wheel. And right now we are talking about the pigments, and pigments we have in the paintings or the other kind of the art, but not in digital art. Remember, if you're adding the 3 primary colors, in theory you're supposed to have black, but reality you have dark brown. Then they're getting darker when we are adding them together. Then in the three primary colors, it's very important that you know the difference between these pigment colors and light colors. If you're working with um, digital tools, if you're working with TV, if you're working with real light, you have to know the primary colors are different. Then the primary colors, they are red, blue, and green in the light. And when you're adding them together, instead of they're getting darker, they're getting lighter. Three primary colors together, they create white. And again, yellow is not a primary colors in the digital areas. We have the colors with different temperature. Then when we are looking up these two, if you just don't look at this for a moment and just look at this, the first color that you see is red. The red, orange, and yellow, they are warm colors, and they're making everything look like larger. Cool colors are violet, purple, blue, and green. Then almost everything that has a blue on this, it's cool colors. And what about if we don't have any colors? What about if it's just black and white or gray like this one? We call this color scheme achromatic. It means no color. Then achromatic is the color that we see in this painting. As we talk about this in the color wheel, if we are seeing a great kind of the contrast, like we want to create it, we can use of the complementary colors like red and green that we have here. So next element is texture. Texture is that you have to touch some things. Then tactile quality of surface is the texture. Textures can be the real textures, like this artwork by the surrealist artist in that in and you see that it's a breakfast in fur, that you can see it's a real object in three object, and you can see it's a physical texture that we have here. We can have the physical texture with using of a lot of paint in the painting too. Impasto technique is the technique that Van Gogh used to create the artwork. The it's a thick amount of paint on the painting, then it's really physically, if you touch it, that nobody is gonna let you to touch a Van Gogh artwork, but if you touch it, you're gonna see that really we have this texture. But we can create the illusion of texture too. In this, you can see that it's a movie store, and you can see the texture of the tire. You know, you can see it and you can feel it, but if you touch the artwork, it's a completely flat, no texture on this, but we can see the texture and feel it. Then it's some kind of implied texture, especially I can see it in the tire, I can see in the windows of the car that it's smooth, in the the all of these trash, that I can see the texture and I can feel it. Then this is implied texture.